Minimalistic black and white street photography isn't just about stripping away the colors. It's about making every detail count. Today I discuss 7 essential elements that will help you create images with real impact and emotion. Lately I've been photographing a lot of colorful images that are quite busy, but so it's very nice to photograph some black and white in minimalistic style. Hi, it's Peter here, and before we get into the business, I need to have a disclaimer. All the images that I'm editing on this, I will be using FilmPack 8 that was launched last Tuesday. More about the software later in this video, and like usually, DxO have not been telling me what to say in the videos, nor have they seen this video before. And they provided me the software a couple of weeks ago for testing. However, I do have an affiliate link in the description. But let's continue and do some real photography. Focus on simple lines and negative space. Negative space and simple lines are really an essential thing in minimalistic photography, no matter if it's color or black and white. It's even more important to use the lines and negative space with black and white, because that makes the image a lot more minimalistic vibe and more calm, because of getting rid of the clutter, and all that is the essential thing in minimalistic approach to photography. And as I said earlier, I've been photographing quite a bit busy scenes lately, so it was really refreshing to do this. When you're out there in the streets, look for those clean lines, leading lines maybe, some simple elements that fill some part of the image and leave rest of the image empty, like it is when using negative space. And sometimes it's even easier to do it in black and white because you don't have the distraction of color, because some of the colors are in the grayscale palette the same, like green and red is exactly the same color when it converted to black and white. So it's sometimes a lot easier to make that. And also to get rid of the colors, you can use the filters built in your image editing software, where you can adjust the different colors. That will help you to achieve that negative space. And what's important in using the negative space is that in a photograph with a lot of negative space, the subject itself stands out. That is also a big part of the whole thing. And you need to think about the composition when you're using negative space. That's really important. And the second one is choose strong subjects and clean backgrounds. We already discussed a little bit about the clean background when I was talking about the previous tip about negative space. But having a clean background makes the subject stand out. I know that it is very common to have someone walking into the frame and have that person as the subject. It might be an interesting image with a lot of story, but it also depends on the character that you have in the photograph. And of course, it can be something more simpler. It is actually surprisingly hard to find something minimalistic if I want some people to be in the photographs. Of course I could photograph something like this, but to be honest, it's not a very interesting photograph. It has some nice shapes, and since it's an overcast weather, there's no real light and shadow on that image, but you know, it's minimalistic anyways, and that is something that you can do if you feel like it, but I like to incorporate some human element into the images. As I said, you not always need a human element in the photograph, but to be honest, those photographs are a bit more interesting. At least that's how I see the thing, that you have some kind of a traces of humans or a human being in the photograph, somehow, some way doing something. So that makes the image a lot more interesting. And of course, it can be an animal or dog or cat or something. Unfortunately, I didn't come across any on my photo walks this time, so I can't have a fresh photograph of any of that. Highlight texture and contrast. Since we're taking out the color, you can't really use the color as your storytelling element. So you need texture and contrast. And if it's a really sunny weather, you do have a lot of light and shadows, which are, of course, very essential when making images in black and white, because, as I said, you don't have the color to lean on, because colors have meaning, so you have to make the meaning without the different colors. And of course, you have to remember, as I already said, that the colors might render a little bit different and they might look the same in an image in black and white. And usually the texture that you see on the streets of different cities and in the urban environment are a good subject for your image. Or not, maybe not the subject, but a good companion to the subject. You might have a wear down building or something like that, and use that as a backdrop and have something in the front and use that minimalistic vibe that you get from that. And remember that the negative space that I was talking earlier doesn't have to mean that it's totally empty or clean. It can have some texture around it, or light and shadows, like this image of a worker on a construction worker on a small break during his work. This is negative space, even though it is not as clean and a little bit busy, to be honest. But this, I think, is or goes into the minimalistic vibe of things. And I think this is a minimalistic image, even though you might think otherwise of some other images. And please let me know if you disagree with some of my images, that they're not that minimalistic, because there are some images that has been and will be on the borderline being minimalistic. And then the fourth one is really important. You have to learn to see in tones, not colors. As I said, I've been doing a lot of color photography lately because I think the colors in a busy city are really interesting, and that's why it was really refreshing to strip out those colors. But colors are also symbols of things. You have, the warning signs are usually red, and then you might have the pedestrian signs are usually blue and stuff like that. And especially red is a color that really sticks out. And that is something that you do not have to consider when you're making black and whites. You need to understand and see how the scene looks in black and white. And that helps if you have your camera set to black and white. And what I usually do is that I have the camera shooting JPEGs and RAW. So I have the preview when I'm shooting in black and white. So I have kind of an idea what will stick out and what will not in an image, because it sometimes works totally different than making colors. But I do have the color image, which I will then convert with FilmPack, which is the next topic. I will be talking about 3 things that are really exciting in FilmPack 8. And the last one, the third one, will be the most exciting thing. And the first one is time travel. You can look into the history of photography and different styles and what different types of films in different eras, how did they render the image or what the image looks like. And I think this is a really, really interesting deep dive into the history of photography. I think this is just marvelous feature. And the second one is a great integration with Photoshop. Now you can use the film simulations, or what they call emulations, from DxO FilmPack 8 inside Photoshop. And I think that works really, really well if you're using Photoshop. Of course, it can be used with Photolab 9, and also it can be used with Lightroom, like I've been using it mainly when I was editing these photographs. I used Lightroom first, and then I used this as a plugin. So it works as a standalone or as a plugin. But I find this integration with Photoshop really, really useful. And the third one, the most interesting thing, is the film optimization. Now, if you're scanning your films with a digital camera using a slide copier or some sort of that type of thing, you can use FilmPack 8 to invert the photograph so that it's not a negative anymore, and you can optimize it to look good with just a click of a button. Here is an example how I used this 5-year-old image of this car. It was made with a film pen F from 1950s, I think it was made. And the film was a little overdated, so that's why I couldn't get it to look perfectly the way it was, because the colors were a little screwed off, and it was very strange negative. But with FilmPack 8 and with Lightroom, I could make this look fine. And this alone is something that you might want to get this for if you are using film and want to digitize them, then this tool is marvelous. And as I said, I do have an affiliate link in the description for DxO FilmPack 8. And there's a hack. If you are already a customer, then if you want to use my discount code, which I will have in the description, log in with a new email address and then get 15% off using my discount code that you can see in the description. If you want to support the channel, you don't pay any extra, but I do get a small commission if you're using the link, my affiliate link, and the discount code. And the fifth one is really important. This is also something that you need to consider in every photograph, is to make the composition with intent. When you're making the composition, you really need to think why you are making the composition as you are making it. And of course, there are some what we call rules of composition, like rule of thirds, golden ratio, and all that. But you don't have to use those if you are breaking the conventions intentionally and know what you're doing. Because sometimes an image that is composed or the composition is not perfect like it's supposed to be. It's more interesting if there is some little fault or something is not right, it's too close to the edge or something like that. It might be a lot more interesting image than a conventional thing. So break the cliches to have that impact and emotion in the image. So remember to have some faults, some distracting things in your photographs to make it more interesting. I've said this almost on my every video, but it is so crucial because the problem today is that people are too obsessed about perfect image quality, the perfect composition, and the images look boring, in my opinion. But having something that's a little bit off, distracting, makes the image something that we will stop and remember also. Pretty image with everything okay, we'll just, see it and forget it. But don't do that and make some more meaningful images with some faults and mistakes. And then the sixth one is about light and shadows. I like to work with natural light when I'm doing street photography. Those are really important because, of course, the cliche is to place someone on the light pocket and then you have these big areas of black because they're in the shadow. And what's good about this is that you can adjust the intensity of the shadow if you want to make it more minimalistic, or using the negative space, or the shadow is the negative space. But you can also open up the shadows a little bit to reveal some of the background. It depends on how minimalistic you want to go, or you want to show some things in the darkness. And usually that makes the image more interesting because it's a little bit of a mystery. You see something there, and then maybe a door, a window, or something, and that raises some questions and makes your imagination just go away. Not go away, but to start thinking and start making the stories. And that is important, of course. But if you want to make more genuinely minimalistic, you might, make the shadows a lot darker. That's also one way of doing, and in minimalistic, it's totally fine. But always remember the storytelling effect that an image can have on your viewer's imagination. Don't underestimate that. And before we get into the seventh one, a reminder, after that one, I will have an extra tip, which is probably the most important tip. The seventh one is embrace imperfection and stillness. I already said about the imperfections quite a bit on this video and in my past videos, that an image with some imperfections is more interesting than an image that is kind of like perfect. But stillness is part of this, and having a really zen, calm, and still image, and what I'm talking about still image, of course, photographs are still images, but still and calm is that there isn't really much happening in the image, and it's very clear and quite fast to understand, which sometimes might be, if you want to make really big stories, might not be the thing. It gives some room for the viewer to breathe and enjoy the image, because of course, if image looks good, it's something that people usually enjoy, and might stop at the image. This is a little bit contradicting what I already said earlier in the video, but you know what I mean with the calmness and the Zen feeling. And what's really interesting is that when I was making these images, I felt really calm because I was getting away from the busy things and I was concentrating on the small things and just solitaire things and few people in the image and light and shadow and all that. It made me feel calm too. And that's something that is affecting the way we photograph. And that takes me to the extra tip, which is shoot for feeling, not just aesthetics. They are kind of combined when you're feeling calm and zen in a way when you're photographing. It also might be aesthetically pleasing. But the main thing here is that if you feel busy and want to be calm, start photographing calm things like minimalistic photographs. That will calm you down. But of course, if you want to be really psyched up and you know, see the buzzing city and stuff, then do the opposite. It's also about how you want to feel. It's not about how you feel, but also how you want to feel. That's really one important thing also in photography. And I think minimalistic approach is it's a little bit slow photography because especially in the big city, you just have to wait that things calm. And especially here in Helsinki, it's not a very crowded city. So making these minimalistic photographs is quite easy. At the same time, that is hard because always someone is photobombing the image. Like on this one, I was trying to photograph the guy with the hat, but then this girl came from the corner. But to be honest, I think it made the image. So try to also embrace the unexpected, which is something that I always say on my videos too. But it is really important because unexpected things happen. People walk where they're not supposed to walk if we look at our composition. But things happen, and embrace those small imperfections that make the image better, or not it better, but something different that you might not thought. So it's a surprise element as you photograph, and you know, be ready for that and react quickly after the Zen moment when you're waiting for something to happen. And most of those images that I made today, or actually on these couple of photo walks that I made the images for, are made with fishing technique, which is also part of the Zen and the feeling that I wanted to have when I was making these photographs. And remember that I do have the affiliate link to the FilmPack, and my discount code can be found in the description. And if you're existing customers, don't forget to sign up to DxO website with the new email address so that they treat you as a new customer and you will get that 15% off. And the video over there is the video about our workshop in Kuala Lumpur next spring. You might be interested in that. But hey, thanks for watching and bye for now.